All right. Hey, everybody. It's Michael Shermer, and it's time for another episode of The Michael Shermer Show. My returning champion guest today is Gene Twenge, a professor of psychology at San Diego State University and the author of more than 190 scientific publications and several books based on her research, including Generation Me, iGen, and Generations, which we discussed on the show. That was her previous book. Her research has been covered in Time, The Atlantic, Newsweek, the New York Times, USA Today, and the Washington Post. She's been featured on the Today Show, Good Morning America, Fox and Friends, CBS This Morning, Real Time with Bill Maher, and NPR. She lives in San Diego with her husband and 3 daughters, so she knows from what she speaks about her new book, 10 Rules for Raising Kids in a High-Tech World. All right, Gene, nice to see you again. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
You're on your book tour this week. I have to tell you, I don't know how many times you've ever heard my show, but I plug your Generations book all the time. It is one
Oh,
of the
thank
most
you.
important books I have ever read, honestly, because you have a theoretical model overarching all the specifics that kind of tie them together, namely this what is it, life history theory that I really liked. It
Right.
explains a lot.
Right. It
It
does.
explains a lot.
Yeah.
And since your book came out, I think it's pretty clear that the problem is no longer debatable. It really is a problem. The link between social media technology and
Mhm.
the spike in depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, unhappiness, and so on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And as it started with seeing those troubling trends in adolescent depression and then wondering what caused them. So, that was back in 2017 when I first started to make that argument. And just because nothing else really seemed to fit. And in the 8 years since, that's still true. Really looks like that is the primary cause, which then begs the question, what do we do about it?
Yeah. Let me just read a couple of these stories from your book here. When Alexis Spence was 11, she opened an Instagram account on her iPad without her parents knowing. As Alexis consumed more and more thinspiration content, I didn't know that word, thinspiration. You can
Hmm.
see where that's going. She began starving herself. By 15, she had developed a severe eating disorder and spent time in a residential treatment center as she battled anorexia and suicidal thoughts. Alexis survived, but still struggles with mental health issues and was not able to leave home for college. Let's just kind of deconstruct that one a bit. What's the causal mechanism going on there? Just comparison to other people that no one can compare to?
There's several. There are really so many causal mechanisms. It's why I came to realize that explanation about smartphones and social media, leading to the adolescent mental health crisis, had some meat to it because there's so many possible mechanisms. So one is just displacement. If you're spending hours and hours and hours on social media, then you're probably not sleeping enough. You're probably not seeing friends and family in person as much. You're probably not getting outside. You're not having time to just sit and think. And then in Alexis's case, it was that social comparison of these often photoshopped bodies, airbrushed bodies on Instagram, and who can compare to that? No one. And so many teen girls and young women are looking at those perfect images, those perfect bodies on Instagram, and thinking they can never live up to that. I mean, that's what Meta's internal research found too when they had focus groups and surveys and so on. They found that over and over, especially for girls and young women.
Yeah. And so speaking of that, why didn't they do something about it? Or is it, their mission is to make profits. So what do we care what happens to their customers?
Yep, that seems to be the case, and that's why there's probably one of the reasons why there's a lot of lawsuits out there. Once those internal documents got leaked, that started the flood of lawsuits. That's actually how we know Alexis's story is that she's part of those lawsuits.
A blackmailer posing as a teen girl talked a 15-year-old Utah boy into sending nude pictures of himself on Snapchat. The user threatened to send screenshots of the images to his friends and family unless he paid $200. He was so devastated he took his own life. So there's an example of it happened to boys. So one last
Mhm.
example, Selena Rodriguez opened an Instagram account when she was 10 and before long was using it at all hours of the day and night. When she wasn't on Instagram, she was on Snapchat. Several adult men asked her to send nude pictures and videos of herself. Selena was eventually hospitalized for depression and self-harm at the age of 11, she died by suicide. Now, you make it clear these are not, this isn't what always happens, but it can happen.
Right. And I have to be clear about that. These are extreme examples. They are really, really unfortunate outcomes, but they're also more common than you might think. So that thing that happened to the Utah boy, sextortion
Mm.
of you're going to send a nude picture and then the blackmailer asks for money. Snapchat gets, I think it's 10,000 reports a month
Oh,
of
wow.
this.
Oh, my God.
And the company themselves acknowledges that that's probably just the tip of the iceberg. They don't think
Oh,
all
wow.
these are even reported. So these things are scary. They are extreme, but there are these lower level things that happen too that are even more common of just kids spending so much time on social media that, as I mentioned, it interferes with other activities, that they're unhappy, that they're comparing themselves. There's just a litany of problems.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see how easy youngsters could fall for that. I've been getting, I don't know, the last 6 months or so, these random texts. You've probably gotten them. Hey, are we still having dinner next week? you know, sorry, you got the wrong number. Oh, I'm so sorry. Maybe we could be friends. And then before, sometimes I drag it out for a while and get them to, they'll send me a picture and it's some like really attractive woman. And I have to keep reminding myself, this is some dude somewhere
Hmm.
just sending me pictures. Right. But it's hard. Even
Exactly.
in my mind, I'm thinking, I wonder what I should say to her next. It's like, no, Shermer, him. It's not, you're not talking to this good looking woman. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll drag
Yeah.
it out as long as I can. Like one of them, I said, "Hey, I thought we agreed not to talk until the police have cooled off." Or did you remember to ditch the gun and hide the body and stuff like that?
Oh man.
But I've never drug it out long enough to know what the ask is. It's probably a gift
Mhm.
card or Bitcoin or I don't know
Yeah.
what. But
Yeah.
but for sure, if I was 15 and didn't know, and here's a cute girl, I
Mhm.
think I'll send her a picture.
Yeah.
And it's just some dude
Yeah.
somewhere, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and there's all kinds of stuff like that. It's not just that. There's also, um, I you know, journalists have done incredible work, uncovering some of this stuff, like the evil group on Discord that has blackmailed teen girls and boys into doing all kinds of crazy stuff. It's really awful out there.
How do they blackmail him to get like the example of the $200? I mean, the kid's not going to go to his parents and say, "I need $200 to send to this person." Is it like gift card purchases or what?
I'm not sure exactly how they do it, but it's often around nude pictures.
Hmm,
So if you don't send me this money, I will send this picture to all of your friends and family.
I see. Wow, incredible. Okay, some of the other mechanisms. So sleep deprivation. Teens need
Mhm.
about 9 hours. They're now getting less than 7 hours.
Yeah, so sleep deprivation started to spike again right around 2012, right as smartphones and social media became common. And it makes sense when you think about it. It's just so tempting to stay up late scrolling through social media, responding to text, staying on those devices. Common Sense Media did a study and found 6 out of 10 11 to 17-year-olds was using their phone between midnight and 5 a.m. on school nights.
Wow. The parents are just asleep in the other room.
Yes, and they should be asleep, but their kids aren't, and they're using their phones in the middle of the night. I mean, that's rule number 2 in the book, and I say it's the most important one, no devices in the bedroom overnight.
Right. So just like when you sometimes you go to comedy clubs and they take your phone at the door and they put it in a bag and you pick it up when
Mhm.
you're done. Something like that.
Well, the schools are using those now, so the
Mm,
Yonder pouches, so those got their start at concerts and comedy clubs, and then they expanded, and now they're even more often being used at schools because that's been, thankfully, the new movement of no phones during the school day bell to bell.
yeah. I'm the perfect host for you because I have a 9-year-old. Now he's not into social media, doesn't have a smartphone or anything, but the gaming tablets. So he's into
Mm.
Minecraft and
Mhm.
something called Geometry Dash, which is really wild. But he could sit there for hours. It's endless. And or
Mhm.
when I'll drop him off at his buddy's house and go out for a 2-hour bike ride and come back and they're still there. With the devices. It's like, oh my god. So I mean, we have to like physically take it out of his hand. You can just
Mhm.
see the addiction. He just can't stop.
Yeah.
Wow, it's really powerful.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And gaming is interesting because it's not as obviously toxic as social media. It's often done either with somebody in the same room or remotely with friends, which in real time, again, unlike social media, but still, you have to set the limits for it. It can't be something that takes over the kid's life or, is interfering with sleep or homework and so on. And too often, that's what it becomes because of that feeling of addiction.
And it's reinforcing because it's also social. I had no idea these games, you could see other people, your friends playing the
Mhm.
game right now. Like
Mhm.
again, my son is like, "Hey, look, but so and so's on there right now." I'm
Yeah.
like, "What?"
Yeah.
And then that just keeps it going. So, yeah, just corporate wise, these devices, games, social media platforms, they are really literally designed to keep eyeballs focused as long as possible because that's the
Mhm.
business model.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why they poured, millions, probably billions of dollars into these algorithms that show people what the app thinks they want to see and has the notifications so they go back as often as possible and spend as much time as possible. So TikTok is a good example. It's known as having the stickiest algorithm out there, which is probably why so many kids and teens spend hours and hours and hours on TikTok. And that time sync has its issues. The other thing is because that algorithm is showing them what it thinks they want to see, it's showing them more of whatever they watch and whatever they linger on. And think about what that's going to be for the average teen. It's going to be stuff that's inappropriate. It's going to be violence. It's going to be just things that they're going to look at a little bit longer, and then it's going to serve them up more of that. And then what if you have a teen in a bad mood, which does happen, happens frequently? Then they're sad, they're depressed, they watch stuff that's about sadness and depression, and then it goes down this rabbit hole of darkness.
Wow. So, for those of us who don't know how the algorithms work, is it something like when I go on Amazon because I'm an author and I buy a book, then it pushes to me related books, which I like because I'm often interested in
hmm
those particular topics. So, it's something like that. It's just automated and it's designed to just push stuff that you've already clicked on or something like that.
Yeah, so it shows you stuff that's related. And, when it's, say, a movie on Netflix or a book on Amazon, that may have its positives. But when it's videos, especially for a teen and especially for a vulnerable teen, that's where you run into trouble. So
Hmm.
we're talking about an adult and they just watch cooking videos and they get served up more cooking videos and they can put it down after half an hour. That's not as obviously harmful. But then you take a kid or a teen and they don't have the frontal lobe development to put it down and close that app. They, again, are what they're drawn to, just given their stage of brain development, is to look at those things that are probably not healthy. And then they get served up more of it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's why I've been watching so many World War II documentaries on Amazon Prime. It keeps feeding me those. Every time I log in, that's all I see. Oh, World
Well,
War II in color. The best of Hitler.
you can say no. Just remember that.
Oh. I don't have any self-control even at age 70. Okay. As for you, let's go over your four different parenting styles. I recognize
Mhm.
myself as one of these. Uninvolved parenting, that's not me. Permissive parenting, that's me. So
Mm,
this is the thing. I'm kind of non-confrontational. I'm a softie. Really, my son's the discipline mostly comes from my German wife. We're always on time. The iPad is going down, and he's like, if I'm there and my wife's gone, and he's like, "Dad, just 5 more minutes, okay?"
right,
Because I feel
right.
bad. It's like, oh, it makes him
Yeah.
so happy to do this, and I don't want to stop. All right, so what do you say to us?
Mhm.
Is us permissive parents
Well,
get
so
disciplined?
yes, get disciplined. Now, look, I will admit I have sympathy for that approach. I don't like fighting with my kids either. I hate it. But I have come to realize that it's necessary and that B.F. Skinner was right that you do have to be a behaviorist as a parent because it's the only thing that works. So rewards and punishments and more rewards than punishments. It
Yeah.
really is the only thing that works. That's my conclusion after 3 kids. Um, so the problem with being too permissive is that your kid may end up being a terror. Now, it sounds like you have a disciplinarian in your house, so that's helpful. But when both parents are permissive and there's just very few rules, then it's hard for kids to adjust to school. It's hard for them to adjust to college, to the workplace. Um, they they don't have those boundaries, that structure in place, and kids need that. Now, they don't necessarily need the other extreme of really authoritarian of it's my way or the highway. These are the rules. I'm not going to explain them, and I'm not even going to really show you much love. We don't want to do that either. So the happy medium is loving but firm. So in psychology, it's called an authoritative, and I call it dolphin parenting. It's actually not my term. I've seen it elsewhere. There's a whole book on dolphin parenting, but it's the idea of firm but flexible. It's an
Mm.
analogy my kids would call cringe, but it's useful. And I like the idea of like, oh, I like sea animals. That lets you see animals for all of
Yeah.
them. So
Yeah.
the completely uninvolved is fish. The permissive is this. You're a sea sponge, apparently.
That's me.
And then the authoritarian is like the tiger shark. Like if you remember the whole like tiger mom, tiger parenting.
Yes. Yes.
Like you have to do X, Y, and Z because I want you to get into Harvard to be a piano prodigy, and that's it. And I'm not ever backing down. Now, I think she also showed love and so on, so she wasn't, as extreme as I think sometimes she was made out to be in that book.
You
But
talk you talking about Amy?
yeah, Amy
Yeah.
Chow, yeah.
I know her. She's a good friend. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. No, I thought the book was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to throw her under the bus by any means. It's just that was the type of parenting that kind of came to mind when you think about the authoritarian of just like that's it. These are the rules, and I mean it's like the 1950s dad.
Yeah.
The really harsh parenting and I'm not going to play with you and I'm not really going to talk to you like a human being. You just do what I say. We don't want to go that far. So that loving but firm really does work. You spend time with your kids, you talk to them, but when you have rules, yeah, sure, maybe sometimes you can make a few exceptions, but the rules are the rules and you stick to them. And that was part of the inspiration for this book was that happy medium of, yeah, you're going to talk to kids, but you also need to have guidelines in place.
Yeah. Definitely kids need that. So that's under rule 1. You're in charge. Be in charge. Be firm but loving, and so on. Number 2, no electronic devices in the bedroom overnight. We talked about that, right? So literally just go into your kid's bedroom and just take out the iPad, the phone, whatever, the computer, and just put it in your own bedroom.
Yeah, well, there's a number of ways. I go into all the different ways to do it. And in my house, they go downstairs on the kitchen counter. If I had any inkling they were using it in the middle of the night, I would lock it up.
Mm.
That'd be the other thing. So you can put it in your bedroom, but if you sleep later than your kids, then that's a problem. Like, if you have a 16-year-old driving herself to school, then that may not work if she's getting up earlier than you or staying up later than you,
Mm.
So it may or may not work. I have heard a lot of parents, that's how they do it, though.
Okay, then what do you get around the problem of the objection by the kids? But all my friends are using it, and I want to talk to them or whatever.
Right. Well, the reason that number 2 of no devices in the bedroom overnight is the one I suggest you follow, even if you can't follow anything else, is yes, you may want to talk to your friends, but you're not going to talk to your friends at 2 a.m.
Mm.
Nope. Non-starter. Because sleep is just so crucial for physical and mental health. Not going to be something we do in this house. So I think that's something that even a sea sponge parent can get behind, right? But the overall argument of, but I'm going to be the only one. So sometimes, and I'm half joking and half not, I say that if your kid is the only one who doesn't have a smartphone or doesn't have social media, it means you won. However, kids are still going to say that. They are going to push back on that. I actually haven't found that to be too much of a problem. And a lot of other parents I've talked to have said the same. And I think it's because there are these solutions. So for one thing, your kid doesn't really need to have social media to communicate with their friends.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't. There's so many other ways that they can communicate with their friends. They can call, they can text, they can FaceTime, they can get together in person, they could go on a game. It doesn't have to be social media. We're talking about TikTok and how it has that very sticky algorithm. TikTok is not a way that teens communicate with their friends. It's a way they see viral videos, which they then talk to their friends about. But look, if the video is that viral, maybe their friend can show it to them on their phone, or maybe they can see it on their laptop briefly or something like that. They don't have to be on TikTok themselves. They can communicate in so many other ways. And then in terms of the smartphone, I really think, the rule that I say is give the first smartphone when they get their driver's license. So in most states, that's going to be 16, plus they have to get that all-important DMV appointment, which is apparently hard to get, my 15-year-old tells me.
Huh.
But they get that, they get the license, then they can have the internet-enabled phone. before that, give them something, another type of phone they could text their friends on, but that does not have social media. And very important for today's conversation, also does not have AI chatbots.
Oh,
So that was something that was in its infancy when I was writing this book. Even though I wrote this book faster than any book I've ever written, now that's the other big issue parents have to be aware
huh.
of, is these AI boyfriends and girlfriends.
All right. Yeah, by chatbots, you mean like Chat GPT and Grok and those?
So there's different types. So ChatGPT and Grok are kind of the general ones, and those have their own issues around, kids using them to write essays and things like that.
Right.
But what is particularly concerning to me are the apps on phones that are AI apps specifically designed to be companions,
Oh,
often romantic companions. And you think about this, you think about your kid, like think about your son. Do you want his first experience with a quote romantic relationship to be with a chatbot?
no.
And that's right. I mean,
I mean, are they good?
absolutely not, right?
They're that
Even
good? They're good enough to fool people? Or, I mean,
well,
don't they
they
know?
are they are good enough for for children and young teens
Huh.
to want to interact with them. And there's all kinds of them out there. So the banned apps list on one of my kids' basic phones, they have a list of all the things that they just never allow. And there's sexy chat, and there's the AI boyfriends and girlfriends, and there's a lot of these specialized apps. And they're new. They're new in the last 6
Wow.
months or so.
I haven't
Yeah.
even followed that. So do these kids know what who they're actually talking to, and it's not a person, but it's just so addicted they can't stop?
The AI has gotten so good that it feels like they're talking to someone.
Wow.
And it's I mean, think about it this way, the idea of teens like feeling like they have a relationship with a TV character or a
Mm.
celebrity,
Oh,
that's happened for
right.
decades. You remember the girls screaming for the Beatles?
Yes. Oh my God.
Right? And they
Yes.
would decide, or am I a Paul girl or a Rico
Right.
girl, or you know what I
Right.
mean? And so that kind of
Right.
parasocial, or there's a term for this that I'm forgetting, but it's something like that. Um, that happens a lot at that age because they may not feel like they're ready for a real relationship, so they kind of practice. But if they're practicing with an AI chatbot that
Unbelievable.
is talking to them, always affirms everything. It if you want it to be sexual, it'll be sexual all the time. And what standard does that set for them having a relationship with an actual human being? Not a good one.
No, because probably most people don't want to talk about sex all day like you do with your chatbot. Okay, that's weird. I
Mhm.
didn't know about that one. Um, okay, so these basic phones, I don't know anything about them. These are like the old Motorola flip phones kind of thing?
Sort of. Okay, you have a 9-year-old, so you are my target audience
Yes. What do
for
I
this
do?
speech. Um, so the good news is the choice is not flip phone versus smartphone anymore. So if you have a kid who's like, yeah, say 9, 10, 11, and they have a bus stop that's far away, or they do club sports and there's issues around pickups or something, and you just need really simple like texting, calling, you could get them a flip phone. You could give them a watch, although those have downsides. We could get into that in a sec. Um, Once they get to the stage around middle school, like 12 or so, they're probably going to want to text their friends. Now, they can start out doing that from your phone, but that gets old after a while. That's what we found.
Mhm.
So we got our younger two kids these basic phones. There's a bunch of different types, but they're not flip phones anymore. They're usually Android or Google phones, and they are designed for kids. So a couple of examples, Gab, TrueMe, Pinwheel. They have a parent portal. And the basic principle is you can text, you can call, but generally there is no internet browser, no social media, and no AI chatbots, no gambling apps. They have a whole list of the banned apps. So you have the control as a parent to say, okay, you can have Duolingo, or this was a whole thing, but we told our 13-year-old, yeah, you can have Spotify, even though I had my doubts about it. But she's a Swiftie. She loves Taylor Swift. She wants to listen to Taylor Swift all
Of
the
course.
time on the bus. And I'm like, she could do worse. That works for me. That's cool.
Yeah.
Um, and so she really wanted Spotify. And we tried other music apps that were, maybe didn't have as many potential issues, but we couldn't get them to work on the phone. So she has Spotify. but she really doesn't have a whole lot else. Like a couple of games, she's got Duolingo, and that's really it. And so she's not getting online, and we have to worry about her, going to Pornhub, which, by the way, do you know how you get on Pornhub in most states, including California, where I
No,
believe we
I've
both
never
live?
even heard. What is this called? Pornhub? I've never
Oh,
heard of it.
God.
No, I'm
Oh,
just
my
kidding.
God.
I'm
Okay.
kidding. I'm kidding, everybody.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
You click I am 18, enter. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Okay, so
That's it. Yeah.
the government is just not going to regulate these companies with this phony "I'm 18" button. Come on.
Well, Texas tried, and Pornhub pulled out of the state, and then the Supreme Court upheld the challenge to the Texas law. So with pornography, maybe we might get some progress. Social media, I'm not as sure will happen. For now, in most states, it's still up to parents.
I see. Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, so that's another reason to not give them that smartphone, and to
yeah.
use parental controls when you do give them the smartphone and on the laptop and so on.
Yeah, well, you make the point, your book is mainly designed for parents. So this is bottom up solutions to the problem. What
Hmm.
about regular old top down government regulation of like smoking and drinking and voting and driving and going to
Sounds
war
great.
and everything else? Why are
Yeah,
they not? Are they in the pockets of these huge tech companies that just have lobbyists? And
maybe. I mean, look, I'm not an attorney. I know there's legal arguments around this too, around the First Amendment and other things. I know that's out there. However, you know, we're not talking about. Well, we are. We're talking about the problem of kids. And again, not a lawyer. I know that there's a lot of the arguments of the First Amendment, and it's going to hinge on First Amendment rights and so on. But come on, there's got to be a way that we can do this. Maybe it's really simple age verification when you download an app. That
mm,
wouldn't be too intrusive to adults. We could grandfather it in so you don't have to do it now, and then that will protect the kids and young teens of the future. So that we've got to do something about
you mean
the
something
age verification.
like a driver's license, like at airports now they just scan your driver's license.
Right. So that's the obvious solution. And then some people have qualms about that, but there are so many companies that do age verification. Now they have their own trade association. And a lot of the techniques are not government ID. They're other things. It's some AI techniques or other things. So this is a little outside my realm of expertise. I'm not a coder or an age verification provider, but point being, there's a lot of different ways it can be done. It's just that you need to get the political will to get the regulation in place. Because right now it's pretty much all up to parents. And
Yeah,
it puts parents in such a difficult, almost impossible position. I mean, I wrote the book so parents know what they can do,
yeah.
but I'm also the first to say, yeah, look, it shouldn't all be on us. It shouldn't be this time consuming. It shouldn't take this much effort and money. We should have a government that will protect our kids from this stuff.
Okay, I know you got to run to your next interview because you're on your book tour, but it's a collective action problem.
It
I've
is.
tracked this for a few years. You and Jonathan Haidt and Lenore Skenazy and others seem to have had some effect already with like schools now starting
Mm-hmm.
to ban phones during the school hours.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I hope that will continue. But to your point, it is a collective action problem. That issue we brought up earlier of kids saying, but I'm the only one. Let's imagine a world where, like, Australia is trying to do this. They
Mm,
already have this law passed. We're going to raise the minimum age for social media to 16, and we're actually going to verify age. Then no parent with a kid 15 or under would have that problem. But all my friends are on it.
right. Yeah. All my
And
friends are drinking.
right, I know, and that's what really gets me going, to be honest, when people are like, "Well, oh, there's no one age, and every kid is different, why are you saying a specific age?" Really? Are we gonna say, why didn't we say, "Oh, some 12-year-olds are ready to drive, and some 20-year-olds aren't. It just depends on the kid." No, we picked an age, and we stuck with it, and we
Right.
enforce it, and we should do the same here.
And then free range. Get them outside.
Yes. Yeah, I know. So that's Rule 8, and I'm a huge believer in that too. Huge fan of Lenore Skenazy and her Let Grow organization. I have a whole list of things in that chapter
Yeah.
that you can do with kids 12 and under and 13 and up to teach them real world skills, to give them independence, to give them tasks around the house. My favorite example is have them cook dinner every once
Ooh,
in a while. Then you don't have to cook dinner that night.
that's a good
I
idea.
love it.
I love public playgrounds. Just go out and watch. It's fun to
Yes,
just watch
for
them running around.
sure.
Sunshine and
Absolutely.
air and wow, what a
Exactly.
difference. Yeah. All right.
Yep.
Thanks, Gene.
Thank you very much.